Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, What is your 2022 Internet Marketing Plan? This webinar is presented by Will Hankey, Chief Search Strategist at Window Treatment Marketing Pros. My name is Megan Farrell, Education Events Coordinator here at IFAI, and I will be helping to moderate today's session. During today's webinar, you'll have the opportunity to submit questions or comments to Will by typing them into the questions box of your control panel. You can send in your questions at any point during today's webinar, and we will address them throughout and at the end of the presentation. Today's webinar will also be recorded and sent out in an email tomorrow, and that email will be coming from GoToWebinar, so be on the lookout for that. With this, I would now like to pass things off to Will to get started.
Thanks, Megan. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Hope you're having a great day. As she said, my name is Will Hankey. My company is Window Treatment Marketing Pros. We specifically work with window treatment and awning companies across the U.S. with their digital marketing. We're a family-owned and veteran-owned business located in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, what we want to talk about is what everybody tends to think about at the end of the year, and that's what are we going to do next year, right? And we're going to get a little bit specific about some things. So we're going to set some goals for next year. How many leads do you think you need in order to hit that target? Things that you can do on your website to optimize it, not just optimize it for the search engines, but optimize it for conversion. In other words, getting people to take an obvious next step, whether that's to set an appointment or to pick up the phone, right? Some of the big picture things that you need to definitely have on your radar in the coming year. Talk a little bit about latest trends and make sure that you have a plan by the end of this to get those leads that you're hoping to get in the next year. As Megan mentioned, this would be a really good time to pay attention. I'm not going to get into this a whole lot, but definitely try to take some notes if you can. And as she said, if you have questions along the way, Megan's just going to stop me and ask those questions as we get on, so we don't lose our train of thought. We don't necessarily have to wait till the end to get those questions. So let's jump in. Your 2022 Internet Marketing Plan. I did put together a workbook. If you want to download the workbook, you certainly can do that. bit.ly/2022 workbook is where you would get that. And let me give everybody a minute to type that in. All right, if you need it again, let me know. We can plug it into the chat if we need to. So let's start it off just having a conversation. What is the hardest part about marketing your business online? You can unmute yourself and let me know. You can raise your hand, or you can just put it into the chat, and Megan can let us know what kind of struggles you guys are dealing with. What's the hardest thing? Megan, are we getting any replies?
Might have a quiet group here today. I'm not seeing any hands raised or chats yet.
All right, well, I'll just throw out a couple things. It's very difficult to understand all of the different things, right? There's search engine optimization, there's social media, there's Google Ads, there's all kinds of different pieces, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all these different things. What should we be doing and where? I think is probably the biggest struggle that most company business owners have.
We do have someone who said managing leads efficiently.
Okay, that's great. So you're getting the leads, but maybe some of them are falling through the cracks, or you don't have a system in place to keep it all together. That's a good one. Yeah, really good. So a goal without a plan is more or less just a wish, right? If you don't have a clearly set of goals, then you'll probably never attain those, right? It could feel like you're just kind of lost at sea, right? You're just hoping the phone continues to ring, people fill out your form online, things like that. But what you really need is a clear set of goals, which equals wind in your sails, right? Gives you momentum. It also gives you a target to work towards. I talked to a guy this morning who every Monday they meet and say, okay, here's the goal we have. Are we on track? Are we off track? Anything like that. It gives you something to work towards, and it's definitely worth your time to do something like that. Recently, there was a Harvard study where they interviewed a graduating class. 84% of that class did not have any specific goals set. 13% had goals but didn't write them down, and 3% had clear written goals and plans to accomplish those goals. And the results are quite amazing. Of the 13% who had the goals, 13% of the class who had goals were earning on average twice as much as the 84% who had no idea what they were going to do next. But even more staggering, the 3% that had them written down were earning on average 10 times as much as the other 97% put together. Having something written down and in front of you is drastically going to improve your business, improve the productivity, improve your output. So definitely worth working on. So obviously you need a set of written goals. You need some sort of plan to get there. And then we recommend a 1-year goal, quarterly goals, and then monthly goals, and kind of breaking those down into rocks. You know, you may have heard the story about the rocks. What are the big rocks that we can smash down into smaller rocks? And then you also need to have a stopping point. And that's one big reason why we're talking at the end of the year here, is because a lot of people, this is recording in the middle of November, a lot of business owners are over the next 6 weeks or so really going to be thinking a lot about what are they doing in the next year. But having that stopping point gives you a clear definition, and you know if you're going to hit your target or not, right? So let's talk about some goals for 2022. Revenue target is a big one. Do you have a revenue target in mind? You should have a pretty good idea what you're going to finish this year out of, at just year at, and then break that down into how much is that every month. What is your average transaction value? And I've actually put this into the workbook on a page where you can kind of break this down. So as an example, if your revenue target is 2.5 million next year, that means you need to make 208,000 a month. And that, if your average transaction value is 3,300, might be a little bit higher, depending on what kind of awnings you're doing, that kind of stuff. But I just put 3,300 in there as a pretty good number. With that number in mind, that means I need to close 63 deals a month, or basically 2 a day, over every single day of the month, right? So that gives you a really good way to just kind of work through that formula of, if I have a goal in mind, then you can break it down, divide it by 12, and then divide that by the average transaction price. That will give you how many leads you need to close per month in order to get that, how many closed deals you need. Now, the other piece of this is your conversion rate, right? Not everybody that calls you is going to turn into a customer. So you need to know, what is that ratio out of all the people that call, how many take the next step? And then you divide your purchase target by your conversion rate. So in the case on the workbook, I think 63 leads ends up meaning you need to have, 63 closed deals means you need to have 114 actual leads come through if your conversion rate is just over 50%. So that will give you a really good idea of how to kind of work backwards in order to figure out, okay, how many leads do we need, right? Now the question is, how are we going to get those leads, right? So has anybody kind of worked through that process? Just kind of scribbled it down in the workbook. I'd love to know, what is your goal for next year? How many leads do you think you'll need to generate in order to do that? And I'd also be curious to know if you know what your conversion rate is. On average, how many people call you? How many of those you're able to convert into an appointment or a next step? Doesn't necessarily have to be a closed deal, but some sort of next step. If anybody wants to share, again, plug that into the chat. I'd love to hear that. I'll give you just a minute.
And feel free to do the raise hand function and I can unmute you on my end.
Okay. Yeah, if somebody just wants to answer, she can unmute you as well. That'd be great. I like the interactivity of it. You know, it gives us a good idea of real world examples. So unless nobody's willing to do so, right? Nope. All right.
And I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay, that's fine. But we'll move on. You guys can be less shy if you want to. I don't mind. I like having a little bit of interactivity as well. So when we talk about the fundamentals of business success, there's really three things that you need. You need a message, you need a market, and you need the media, or the how are you going to get to those people. So I wanted to kind of cover each of these really quickly. First of all, the market, or who is your audience. Now, some of you may have gone through some sort of an exercise related to this, but who is your ideal customer? It's not just anybody with money. It's not just anybody with a home. It's not just a homeowner, right? It could be a certain type of homeowner or a certain demographic, a certain monthly annual revenue, something like that. But it's very important to figure out who your specific target is when it comes to your marketing, so that you know who you're talking to. Now, in the workbook on page 9, I've kind of started to fill this out for you guys as far as all kinds of different things that would help you target and kind of whittle down who that person is in very specific manner. Some of the things that might be on your demographics is, are they a homeowner? How old are they? What is their annual household income? You know, other things, is it a family? Is it a family of 4? Is it, you know, do they typically have kids? Things like that. Who makes the decision, right? That's a good one. Is it typically the female that makes most of the purchase decisions, or at least starts that process? Those are good things to know, because when you're creating your message, you'll know who you're talking to in a little bit more details. Pains and frustrations. What kind of things are they having trouble with? Is it the fact that the sun is always hitting the house in the afternoon and it's heating it up? Or are they just worried about the awning breaking, or the wind, or, you know, there's a lot of different reasons of why somebody might be having some frustrations and calling you. Are they afraid of being ripped off when they call some sort of a company? Are they worried about shoddy workmanship? Are they worried about you not showing up for an appointment when you say you will? Those kind of things. Maybe you don't have the parts and it turns into a 2-week job, right? Lots of different things that you can consider, and you've probably heard your past customers talk about. So just kind of writing those down will really help you understand what other people are thinking about, and then you can create messaging to directly to those people. Goals and desires. Obviously, if they want to get things fixed, if they want the house to look great for outdoor how it's done. So here's Sunshine Drapery again. And even though they have, this is their specials page, right? They've got a sale, they've got free installation right now, but over on the right, you see that there's a free design guide. You also notice that it's a different color, so it kind of draws your attention to that. And all this is a PDF document that says, here for these kind of situations, you probably would want this product. And it's free. You can plug your email address in there and it downloads immediately to your inbox. At the same time, this company is grabbing those email addresses of people that are raising their hands, but maybe aren't in purchase mode. Maybe they're in research mode. So this is a great way to do it. We typically call this a lead magnet, but there's a lot of different ways to do these kind of things to really get those people that maybe aren't ready to purchase today, but keep your business top of mind is a great start for that. Also tracking mechanisms. So things like Google Analytics, right? Do you have Google Analytics set up? Even if you don't know a lot about Google Analytics, I always joke that a lot of business owners will log in, see the pretty graphs and say, yeah, something's happening, not really sure what, but things are happening. And then they log out, right? Because they don't know a whole lot about how the intricacies of Google Analytics. But you definitely need to have that running so that you can start to learn about it enough that you can start to make decisions from the way that people are interacting with your website. Plus, it's free. It's a free tool. Also have some sort of KPI tracking in place. So knowing as people come in, I think it was Scott said, managing leads effectively. Having a place where all those leads come into a system like this is what we use. It's called Lead Boomerang. But having all of the leads to come into one place and know exactly where they are in the pipeline. Are they a new lead? Did they already schedule an appointment? Have we already sent them a proposal? Is the install scheduled? Is the install complete? Having those KPIs in place or those key performance indicators will help you know more about your business and help you make better decisions from that. At the same time, like he said, you'll be able to have all those leads in one place, which definitely helps managing them more effectively, as he said. Google Analytics also has something called goals that not a lot of people know about. But one thing you could do is actually build a goal that, in this case, as in this example, equal to the thank you page. Now, the only way somebody could get to your thank you page is by filling out the appointment form. So then in analytics, you can actually just count how many people reached the thank you page, and that will be a good way to know, okay, that's probably how many leads that the website generated, the website form generated for the business. And that's an easy, easy way to do that inside Google Analytics. Just create some sort of a goal that equals some sort of page that wouldn't show up normally in Google because there's no reason to search for people's thank you pages, right? But that's a great way to kind of deal with some of that. Here's an example of one of our clients and the goals that they are tracking. So in this case, 1,100 goal completions. And if you look at the right-hand side where all the numbers are, they're tracking two big things. First of all, how many people filled out a form or set an appointment, and how many people picked up the phone and called. And it always blows me away the ratio of one to the other. Not a lot of people like to fill out the form. They prefer to talk to somebody. That's perfectly fine. But the numbers are pretty drastically different there. They're also tracking two other things, which is two other lead magnets. The design guide, or how many people are downloading or requesting to download the design guide. And you can see overall, that's a pretty small number. It's, well, 7% or so. And then how many people downloaded a catalog, which in this case is 1% of all of the people that visited their site. And those are small numbers, but still that's 70, 79 people that raised their hand that could have just gone away, but instead they got their email address and were able to continue to market to them. So having those goals in place will really help you understand a lot more about how your website is functioning and what it's doing well, what it's not doing well. The other thing is call tracking. This has always been a big leak in website development. So call tracking is basically putting a phone number on your website that doesn't exist anywhere else online. Doesn't exist on your business cards. It doesn't exist on any marketing you're doing other than your website. That number forwards to your regular business line. But every time somebody calls that number, there's a system in place that tracks all of those phone calls. And you know exactly over time how many phone calls your website has generated. If I go back and look at this, in this case, he knows it was 846 calls in this time frame. So having some sort of call tracking in place really can help you understand. If you don't have this in place, you may be doing some great marketing with your website and getting a decent amount of traffic, but if people are picking up the phone, you could ask them, how did you find out about us? But that doesn't mean that people always tell the truth, or they don't know. You know, maybe they might just say, well, I Googled you, you know, or I just used Google Maps or something like that, right? They're not real specific. So if you have the tracking mechanisms in place to make sure that it's very specific, then you'll know where all of your leads are coming from. So here's a good little exercise. Pull up your website. One thing I like to always tell people is pull up your website and just click 3 things randomly, 3 different links on your site. So you land on some random page on your website, scroll halfway down, scroll a third of the way down, and then look, is there an obvious next step? Right now, wherever I'm at on this website, is there an obvious next step for me? If there isn't, then you need to go back and think about how can I build calls to action, conversion factors, a sticky menu at the top with a phone number, something like that. And just kind of do that a couple times. That exercise is really good to just bounce around in your site and see, okay, now I can kind of see how somebody might be interacting with my business, and it isn't obvious what they should do next. And then one other thing, we're seeing a lot of websites where the phone number, maybe the phone number is always showing, but it's not click to call. So do the same exercise on your phone. Pull up your website, go to a random page, click on, if there's a phone number, click on it and see if it automatically pulls up the phone app, where you can actually dial that company. A lot of times they don't. And then do the same exercise with your phone the other direction. So do it this way, make sure it still looks good, and just make sure that you can click to call on mobile devices. That's always a big one. So here's the problem. When you start to get traffic to your site, a lot of people just leave immediately, right? They're whether they were looking for something else, or they didn't like the way the site looked, or they were in research mode. There's a lot of reasons people come to sites and bounce. And then those people that do fill out the form, a lot of times they fail to convert. And one of the big reasons is if leads that are not followed up with within 15 minutes, they're probably going to go cold, right? They're going to fill out the form, they're going to hit the back button, they're going to go to your competitor, they're going to fill out their form, they're going to hit the back button. They might do that 2 or 3 times. So definitely have to have some sort of system that does that, responds to that quickly. At the same time, the average customer needs to be followed up with 5 to 7 times. And that doesn't mean you picking up the phone 5 to 7 times. That just means 5 to 7 different touches. And I've even heard this to be as high as 12 different touches before they decide to engage with a business. So that could be that they saw your Facebook page or the Facebook ad, and then they saw you on social media somewhere else, right? Then they saw you on YouTube. And starting to have all these different pieces in place will increase the opportunity of you getting that appointment. Also, today's consumers prefer text messages over phone call and email. Text messaging has a 99.5% open rate. Nothing else has that. If you text somebody, it's more or less a given that they're going to open that text message. So you definitely have to have something in place that engages with them from an SMS standpoint or a text messaging standpoint. This is probably my favorite chart of this presentation, especially the one on the left. The time that it takes in minutes for somebody to reply to a lead drastically decreases the potential of that converting into a customer in minutes. I mean, look at that, 30 minutes in, you're only 62% possible, that you're going to convert that to an appointment or something like that. And then at the same time on the right, the more times that you are able to follow up or touch that potential customer, the higher your potential for conversion at the same time. This always blows me away. People are super fickle, I guess you could say. And like I said, they're filling out a form, or they're hitting the back button, or they're picking up the phone and nobody answers. They hit the back button. So having something in place that stops them from searching and replies to them in a very short minute of time, in a short amount of time, is going to help get more of those leads. So there's all kinds of marketing automation out there that does this. Our system, Lead Boomerang, does this, where within a minute of somebody texting you or picking up the phone and calling you, they get a message back. Hey, this is Joe from Joe's Awnings. Sorry we missed your call. How can we help? That starts a conversation with them on text, but it also stops them from continuing to search, because now they've got an actual business that's replying and engaging with them, which is great. Automate some sort of a follow-up so that if they don't set an appointment, you've got something that automatically follows up with them. You don't want to be hounding them, right, for an appointment, but at the same time, you want to keep your business top of mind as it goes on. When it comes to the math, again, I just plugged in some numbers here, but if we had 100 leads and we had no sort of follow-up in place, we might be able to convert 30% of them. If an average ticket was $4,500, that's $135,000 worth of jobs. Now, if you had some sort of a follow-up system in place, those same 100 leads might turn into closer to 7 out of 10 closed, or appointments set at least, right? Revenue from that same 100 leads turns into $315,000. I'd rather have that than 135, right? So it definitely makes sense that every lead is treated, in a very good way, so that you are always following up with those. And it makes every lead much more valuable to you, right? They're very much more valuable that way. So what kind of conversion elements can you implement on your site? If you went through the process of, bouncing around on a couple pages, didn't see some sort of a call to action, what can you do? Again, there's some options in the workbook for this. I think the most obvious one is make sure that your phone number is in the top right. That's typically where it should be at. It should be click to call so that mobile users can click it. Maybe some sort of a bright colored button that is different from all the rest of the branding that you do. Maybe that's bright orange or something like that, so that there's an obvious next step there. There's a lot of different ways that you can add conversion elements to your site to increase the traffic, the potential of the traffic you're already getting, I guess is a good way to say that. So far we've talked about clear goals, having some sort of a revenue target for next year. We understand the three pieces, right? The market, the message, the media, how we're going to talk to these people, what we're going to say, who it is that we're going to talk to in the first place. Make sure your website is optimized for conversion, and that you have some of these tracking mechanisms in place so that you know the things you're doing are working, right? That's obviously the easiest way to figure that out is by the phone ringing. That's easy, but even with the phone ringing, you need to know what generated that phone call backwards, so that basically you can do more of whatever that thing is, right? So definitely have some sort of mechanism in place to track things. So let's talk about takeaways. I would like somebody to unmute or put in the chat, what different things kind of have you, what did we talk about that maybe you learned from this? What is something that you noticed that maybe is wrong with your site or needs to be improved with your site, or something else you would like to share? I'd love to hear from a couple people. I don't think I can see the chat. You may have to request to be unmuted, but I'd like to hear if there's anything that you guys noticed about your site or the way that you're doing things now that you could improve upon.
Not seeing anyone yet. Give them a little time here.
Should I do the Bueller? Bueller? Not a chatty group today.
Yep, and I'm not seeing anything still.
Okay.
We do have someone here. The importance of multiple call to actions on your site, giving a user the option on how they want to communicate, whether it is phone, email, or a contact form.
Love it. Yeah. Another one is chat. The chat widgets for most of our clients are really growing. People, especially younger demographics, really like to be able just to chat with a business and just ask some really quick questions. So that's another great way to add another line of communication to a website. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. So all of these different things that I talked about are pieces of what we call the digital dominance method. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of things you can do, right? Do we do Google search? Do we do Google AdWords? Do we start doing videos? Do we get on social media? Do we start a newsletter, right? There's all kinds of different pieces and they all work together, but they can really start to kind of confuse somebody. So, these are all the things you need to do, right? Now, as a business owner, does that mean you're going to just start doing all of these? Probably not, right? It's a lot of different pieces. So if you were to just choose one, the one that I would recommend you actually starting with is content. So one thing that Google loves is new content on a website. So a lot of business owners think, well, we need to go in and update the site and change some things around and just, switch some things up so Google thinks it's not a stale site. And that's fine. That's good. That's a signal to Google that there's life out there. But what they really like more is to consistently visit a website that's getting bigger and bigger in a way that the content and the value is increasing every time. So an easy way to do content is a blog. And if you could just do one a month, right? Top 7 things to consider before putting a retractable awning on a south-facing deck. I mean, that was a little bit specific, but those kind of things, I'm sure that you could come up with 7 things that your reasons that you should use a certain fabric, you should use certain colors, things like that. That kind of content is fantastic for Google, and it will increase your overall search engine standings. So building content, that's a great way to do it. If you're a video type person and you don't mind video, making videos and putting those out obviously on YouTube. YouTube now has something called Shorts, which is just short little blurbs. Maybe when you're finished with an install, hey, this is Joe from Joe's Awnings. We just finished this awning, and here's a little bit about the material and how we did it. And just putting those things together is fantastic. The really cool thing about video is that you can transcribe that video, put it on YouTube, but also embed it on your website as basically as a blog post along with the transcription. And you want to do the transcription because that's what Google can read. Google can't really read a video or a picture. So having the actual text of what was said in the video can really help. But building content is by far a great way to increase the overall visibility for your business. Another thing I want to mention is Google My Business, which as of like 3 days ago, they changed the name to Google Business Profile. So having this set up is huge. This is what we call the 3-pack of results. Typically there's a map and then there's 3 pins. we are seeing around 60 to 70% of our clients' leads coming from the 3-pack of results. And that means 60 to 70% of people are not visiting the websites. They're actually making their decisions from that 3-pack of pins. Now, this is a little bit more drastic when you think that 60 to 70% of people are also using mobile phones to find out information. Not so many are using desktop. So having a mobile-friendly site and a site that shows up in Google, the 3-pack of results, is going to generate a ton of leads. We have one awning client who is a 90-10. 90% of his leads come from the 3-pack of results, those 3 pins. So that kind of speaks backward to getting reviews, right? The more reviews you get, the better you're going to be placed in that 3-pack of results as well. So to claim your listing, google.com/business is where you would start with that. Make sure your listing is claimed. Make sure that everything is filled out, your hours, your location, your service area, the categories that you service. All of that stuff needs to be filled out, but that will by far generate a lot of leads for you, even more than your website. Now, your website definitely plays into it because your website having a good online presence is also going to affect where you show up in the 3-pack of results. So it's not something you can't have, but definitely make sure that you have optimized your Google Business profile, formerly called Google My Business, and start getting those reviews. It's definitely very important to get those reviews. I would start, obviously there's a lot of places to get reviews, but I would start with Google, getting reviews on Google, getting reviews on Facebook, getting reviews on Yelp, even though a lot of business owners don't like Yelp, and I can't say I blame them. Yelp does influence overall reviews. So getting reviews on there. And then we could also throw in something like Houzz as a potential place to get reviews. But start to get reviews on just a couple different platforms, and you will definitely see an increase in phone calls and leads from that. Social media. I wanted to make sure that I just kind of mentioned this. We are not huge fans of social media from a lead generation standpoint. It is a good thing to have as part of your plan, but it shouldn't be something that you're thinking of doing specifically to generate leads unless your website is built out, your search engine optimization is working well, and then consider social media. Listen, people are on Facebook to look at cats and grandkids. They're probably not looking to purchase, an awning or something like that. So it does have its place, but I don't think it should be front and center for most people if there's other things lacking, for sure. And then the other piece, of course, is paid ads. I talked kind of more about the search engine optimization side of things, or getting your website really functioning well, where Google likes it more and rewards you because of it. The other side of that is pay-per-click. Search engine optimization may take 6 months to really start to ramp up. Pay-per-click is the easy way to the top, right? But it's not free. So having a system in place that works for both is the best solution. Obviously, that means basically double the budget, or you're splitting your budget between 2 different things. This is kind of where it gets really interesting. I'd say for our clients, 50% of our clients, all of our clients start with SEO and pay-per-click in play. 50% of the clients at the 4 to 6 month range, when SEO really starts to kind of ramp up and it's starting to generate leads on its own, 50% will pull back on that pay-per-click budget and put that money elsewhere. 50% will also just say, you know what, it's working so well, let's just double down and basically have 2 different potential chances at eyeballs on a page instead of 1. But definitely needs to be on your radar. Pay-per-click is a necessary evil, I guess, especially at the beginning. We prefer to use pay-per-click after that time frame when SEO is working. Pay-per-click becomes a supplement. So if you're low on leads 1 month, you can put some money into pay-per-click and generate more phone calls, but it's not something that you have to do to survive. It doesn't have any long-term investment benefits from doing pay-per-click. If you turn your pay-per-click off, the phone stops ringing, right? If you don't have some sort of SEO base built out. So relying on that is not a good long-term solution. We love the SEO piece, and then using the paid ads to supplement that and get more chances at eyeballs. So what are your top three? What are the three things that you really need to focus on in the next year? And as you get into considering what are we going to do next year? What is our revenue goal for 2022? You know, write down what are the three initiatives that we need to focus on. You know, is it SEO? Is it we just need to revamp the website? Is it that we need to get into Google My Business and start asking for reviews? Are we just not asking our clients for reviews? I talked to a guy this morning that'll do 2.9 million this year and has 0 reviews online. I can't believe it. But if he had reviews, I mean, his business would be through the roof. So definitely put down on this list some different initiatives that you want to complete as you're getting into this phase of kind of thinking about different things and what could we implement over the next couple months. So quick recap, got a clear goal for 2022. We understand the three pieces, the marketing, the message, and the media. We optimize a site for conversion. My daughter is our lead web developer. I always say she can make things pretty, but I can make them work. And it's a great relationship because it doesn't matter if you have the most beautiful website in the world. If it's not generating leads, it's just a great website for you to show your friends, right? It has to be generating leads. It has to be its own lead generation tool, if you will. Make sure that you have some sort of tracking set up, and obviously go do it. Don't forget that piece as well. One last thing, I do have a book, Triple Your Window Treatment and Awning Leads. If you want a copy of this book, Megan said I could put this on here as a slide, wtmarketingpros.com/book. I'll get one in the mail to you today, and I'd be more than happy to do that for you. And then if you want to jump on some sort of a strategy session, you can do that at wtmarketingpros.com/strategy. That's it. That's what I've got for today. If there are any questions, I think Megan's going to jump in and kind of make sure that everybody has all the answers that they want, and I'm happy to answer anything that you guys may have missed or just need clarity on.
Yes, thank you so much, Will. As I mentioned before, make sure you put any of your questions into the questions box of your control panel and we can get them answered for you. And we'll give everyone a minute or so here to get in any questions you have.
Depends on how fast they can type, right?
Right.
Megan, while we're waiting, thank you so much for the opportunity to share. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much. And I'm not seeing any questions coming in, so it looks like we might just have a quiet group here.
Okay. All right. Well, if anybody has any questions, of course, you can give me a call or just go to our website. We'd be happy to help. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, as Will mentioned, feel free to send in your questions also to IFAI and we can pass those along. Otherwise, make sure you're on the lookout for any other upcoming webinars we have on the ifai.com/events website. And then there's a very brief survey once you exit the webinar that if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to fill that out, we would really appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks.